Every day begins with choices, with voices, with noise. But have you ever stopped to ask, who should I be listening to first? You were never designed to navigate life on your own. Before the phone starts ringing, before the emails start piling up, before your feet even hit the ground, heaven is waiting to speak. There is direction, clarity, and instruction available if you ask. So the real question is, are you waking up to your own plan, or are you seeking His? Because whoever you consult first will determine the course of your entire day. Every morning you wake up, you are stepping into a battlefield, not of flesh and blood, but of choices, thoughts, directions, and distractions. And the greatest mistake you can make is starting your day without consulting the one who wrote it. You don't just need coffee in the morning. You need clarity. You don't just need a schedule. You need strategy. And where does that come from? From the King Himself. Start with the King. That's the principle. That's the posture. That's the priority. Because you were never meant to begin your day with confusion, anxiety, or random business. You were meant to begin with alignment. Alignment with the mind of God, the will of heaven, and the purpose that was written about you before you ever arrived on earth. When you start with the King, you are not guessing, you are guided. You're not hustling, you're hearing. And when God speaks, everything else begins to make sense. You see, the first few moments of your morning are not small. They're sacred. They are not routine, they are divine. That's when your spirit is most open, your heart is most quiet, and heaven is most ready to download instructions. But here's the danger. If you don't fill those early moments with direction from above, the world will fill them for you. Emails, deadlines, bad news, people's opinions, social media, all of it waiting to hijack your mind before you even brush your teeth. So, let me ask you, do you rise in the morning and check your phone or check your heart? Do you turn on the news or tune in to God's voice? Do you start by running to your plans or by sitting in His presence? The King waits for you each morning, not to give you rules, but to release revelation, not to control you, but to counsel you. And the ones who succeed in purpose are not the ones who run the fastest, but the ones who walk with God from the first step of the day. When you start with the King, you start with wisdom. You start with peace. You start with confidence that no matter what comes today, you are not alone. You are led. That's how you carry power in a quiet spirit. That's how you move through storms with stability. That's how you make decisions that bring life and not regret. Because when the King speaks, He never speaks randomly. He speaks intentionally. He speaks personally. He speaks prophetically. And that onin wardi in the morning can protect you from 1,000 problems by night. So if you really want to win your day, don't rush past the one who authored it. Start with the King. But here's the question you must ask next. Once you've heard His voice, will you follow His direction? Before you move, ask the one who knows the way. Isn't it strange how we wake up every morning with plans, goals, tasks, and ideas, but we rarely pause to ask the one who sees the entire path ahead? We consult our calendars, we check our reminders, we scroll through updates. But what about heaven's agenda for your life? What about the divine route designed just for you? The truth is, you may have vision, but He has the map. You may have passion, but He has the path. And life was never meant to be lived by trial and error. It was meant to be lived by revelation. That's why the most powerful thing you can do every morning is stop and ask, Father, what is your will today? Not my will, not my ambition, not my assumption, but your will. Because direction from God is not just about big decisions. It's about every decision. Sometimes it's not about where you're going. It's about when to go or who to go with or whether to go at all. And only the one who stands outside of time can tell you exactly what's ahead. You see, he knows the trap before you step into it. He sees the storm before the clouds even form. He hears conversations you were never invited to. That's why asking him first is not optional. It's essential. You wouldn't drive through a city you've never seen without GPS. So why are you living days you've never lived without guidance? Why are you making choices about people, places, investments, and opportunities without even checking in with your Creator? He knows the way. He is the way. And when you ask him first, something powerful happens. Confusion breaks. Delay is avoided. Wrong doors stay closed. Right doors swing wide open. The anxiety of uncertainty disappears, and a strange confidence takes over your heart. Because now, you're not just moving, you're moving with him. You're not just going fast, you're going right, GHT. Direction is more important than speed. Let me say it again. Direction is more important than speed. It's better to walk slowly with God than to run ahead and fall into something he never ordained for you. It's better to wait on clarity than to act on impulse. And many people are tired, not because of life, but because of wrong direction. They're drained because they never stop to ask, which way, Lord? So before you make that call, before you send that message, before you take that meeting, before you sign that contract, ask. Because one word from God can save you 10 years of pain. But after you ask comes the next challenge. Will you recognize his voice when he speaks? The secret to starting right is seeking divine instruction daily. Let me ask you something. How can you walk in divine purpose if you haven't received divine instruction? How can you step into your assignment when you haven't heard your orders? Every morning you wake up, heaven is offering you more than just survival. It's offering strategy, not just motivation, but instruction. Not just inspiration, but revelation. Too many people are starting their days with hype, noise, and human opinions, but not with the Word of God. They're chasing productivity instead of pursuing purpose. They're busy but not guided. An activity without instruction is the fastest route to frustration. You can build something all day long, but if God didn't tell you to build it, it's in vain. He said, "My sheep know my voice." Not my noise, not my presence, not my miracles, but my voice. That means the key to successful living isn't how loud you shout or how early you rise. It's how clearly you hear. Because one instruction from God can accomplish more than 1,000 hours of human effort. That's why every morning matters. That's why every early hour is holy. Because when your ears are tuned and your heart is quiet, God begins to speak. He speaks about things that are coming. He speaks about people to avoid. He speaks about places to go or not go. He speaks in whispers, not to hide from you, but to draw you close. You weren't created to live in confusion. You were created to walk in clarity. But clarity comes from counsel, not from your own ideas, but from divine insight. And the ones who rise to seek it daily, they don't just exist, they excel. They don't just survive, they soar, because they are not reacting to life. They are responding to divine instruction. The secret to starting right is found in consistency. God does not reward occasional desperation. He honors daily discipline. You don't just seek him when trouble shows up. You seek him so that trouble never has the final say. You seek him not for religion, but for results. Not out of obligation, but out of wisdom. And those who seek instruction before interruption, they live different. So let me ask you, when was the last time you started your day with a question instead of a complaint? When was the last time you sat still and said, "Speak, Lord, I'm listening"? Because he's not silent, we're just often too loud. He's not distant, we're just distracted. And divine instruction is waiting for those who dare to prioritize it. But here's the tension we all face. Once he instructs you, will you actually obey, even if it doesn't make sense? Your morning meeting with purpose is not optional. It's essential. You are not placed on this earth to simply exist, to pay bills, to chase temporary pleasures, or to impress people who don't even know your calling. You were sent here with an assignment, a reason, a role, a divine responsibility. And the most powerful way to begin your day is to reconnect with that reason before the world pulls you in every direction. Every morning, your spirit needs a meeting, not with your job, not with your phone, not with your problems, but with your purpose. Why? Because purpose gives you direction. Purpose gives you energy. Purpose tells you what to say yes to and what to walk away from. When you don't meet with your purpose, you begin to live in reaction instead of an intention. God never creates anything without purpose. The sun rises with purpose. The ocean moves with purpose. The trees grow with purpose. And you were born with divine purpose, written in eternity, waiting to be awakened every single morning. So before you enter the boardroom, before you enter traffic, before you enter social media, enter the throne room. That's where purpose is confirmed. That's where assignments are whispered. That's where your why is reignited. And listen, when you start your day with purpose, you don't waste energy on pointless battles. You don't let critics define you. You don't entertain distractions. Why? Because your purpose is too loud for their noise. Let me ask you this. When you wake up, do you walk like someone who knows why they're alive? Or do you drag yourself through the morning like someone who's just trying to survive? Purpose brings focus. Purpose brings order. Purpose tells you to ignore, what to pursue, when to speak, and when to stay silent. And without it, you'll say yes to every invitation, every demand, every emotion, until you're burned out, worn out, and empty, all because you didn't take time to meet with your why. God doesn't want you busy. He wants you effective. He doesn't want you impressive. He wants you impactful. And the impact begins when you hear from Him. This is why you woke up today. This is what I've called you to handle. This is who I've assigned you to bless. When you begin your day by locking in with your purpose, you're no longer distracted by every detour. You're no longer impressed by every opportunity, because now you're moving with intention. Now you're walking in your lane. So ask yourself, when you wake up tomorrow, will you rush into the noise, or will you sit still long enough to remember who you are? But even when you know your purpose, there's one thing you still need to move forward. Do you have the GPS of heaven to guide your every step? When heaven becomes your GPS, confusion loses its power. Now think about this. Would you ever start driving in a city you've never been to without a navigation system? Would you hit the road full of turns, exits, construction zones, and detours with no direction at all? Of course not. But every day, many people wake up and live life that way, making decisions blindly, going places God never assigned, partnering with people He never approved, and wondering why they keep ending up lost. Life without spiritual direction is not just difficult, it's dangerous. But when heaven becomes your GPS, everything changes. You're no longer led by impulse. You're led by insight. You're no longer chasing opinions. You're following instructions. You're not living on guesses. You're walking in guidance. Because the one who made the map now lives inside of you. And here's what's beautiful. God doesn't just see your destination. He sees every intersection, every pitfall, every trap, every delay. Before you ever get there, He's not guessing your route. He designed it. So when He says, wait, it's not rejection, it's protection. When He says, turn left, even though you thought straight was quicker, it's because He sees the accident waiting on the road you can't even see. The problem is, Most of us want God's promises, but we ignore his positioning. We want to arrive without listening to how to travel. And the danger in ignoring heaven's GPS is you might still get there, but you'll arrive late, broken, or exhausted because you chose your way, not his. Let me ask you, who's guiding your steps? Your emotions, your friends, social media, or the Spirit of God? He said, I will guide you with my eye. That means you're not walking alone. That means your steps, your stops, your pauses, and your pivots are all under divine direction. And when you follow his voice, peace becomes your compass. Even when things don't make sense, your soul is steady. Because you're not walking by sight, you're walking by revelation. And hear me, heaven's GPS never malfunctions. It never loses signal. It never gives the wrong coordinates. But it does require your surrender. You can't have direction if you refuse correction. You can't hear instructions if you've already made up your mind. So tomorrow morning, when you rise, don't just jump into the day. Pause, ask for guidance, invite the navigator, and then follow him step by step, even when it's not comfortable, even when it doesn't match your plan. Because when heaven becomes your GPS, you might not always move fast, but you'll always move right. But even with guidance, there's something else you need every morning. Have you learned how to set your priorities according to the kingdom before the world sets them for you? Kingdom priorities before sunrise, that's where true order begins. Before the world demands your time, before messages flood your phone, before distractions fight for your focus. There is a moment, a sacred window, where heaven waits to set your order. And in that moment, the question is not, what do I want to do today? But what does the kingdom require of me today? Because purpose without priority leads to chaos, and business without order leads to burnout. You were not created to live by pressure. You were created to live by principle. And the principle of the kingdom is this: God first, everything else after. That's not just a quote, that's a law. Seek first the kingdom, not second, not after breakfast, not after Instagram, but fiasti, before the sun rises, before the office opens, before the noise begins. When you wake up and place kingdom priorities at the top of your day, your time multiplies, your energy aligns, your thoughts find clarity, and your heart walks in peace. Because now you're not reacting to life, you're responding to order. You know who you are, you know what to do, and most importantly, you know why you're doing it. Let me ask you, what's running your day? Pressure or purpose? People's demands or heaven's instructions? If you don't set your priorities early, the world will set them for you. They'll tell you what's urgent. They'll tell you what's important. They'll tell you what matters. And before you know it, you're chasing things God never told you to pursue and ignoring the very things he assigned you to protect. Kingdom priorities are not about doing more. They're about doing what matters. Not about adding to your schedule, but about aligning your schedule with what heaven had in mind. It could be a conversation, a quiet hour of study, a phone call you've been avoiding, a decision that requires faith, but you only see it clearly when your priorities are in place. Order is not a feeling, it's a decision. And every time you decide to begin with God, every time you decide to seek first, every time you pause to ask, Lord, what matters most today? You are placing a demand on heaven to take care of everything else. Because when your priorities are in the right place, peace follows, favor follows, opportunities find you, the right people appear, and you don't have to chase blessings. They begin to chase you. So tomorrow morning, before the sun shows up, make a decision. Set the kingdom first. Let everything else fall in line. And you'll begin to see God is not just the creator of your day. He's the director of it. But even when your priorities are clear, there's still a deeper question waiting to be asked. Are you hearing the whispers of heaven before the world starts shouting? Unlocking wisdom before the world wakes, that's where the advantage begins. There is a wisdom that doesn't come from books, degrees, or titles. It comes from silence, from stillness, from secret moments with God before anyone else opens their eyes. The world chases information, but the kingdom gives revelation. And those who rise early, not just to grind, but to listen, those are the ones who walk in wisdom that confuses the wise. Wisdom is not just knowing what to do. It's knowing when, how, and why. And that kind of clarity doesn't come through hustle, it comes through intimacy. Before your inbox fills up, before your meetings begin, before social media feeds you 1,000 voices, there's Odin voice waiting to release insight that can shift your whole day. You don't need more noise, you need more knowing. And knowing begins when you sit still long enough to hear the whispers that others miss. The early hours are holy hours. That's when heaven downloads secrets. That's when direction becomes clear. That's when your spirit becomes sharp, not busy, not anxious, but tuned in, like a receiver catching a frequency that the world cannot hear. And when you walk out of those early moments with wisdom, you walk into your day with a quiet confidence. Because now, you're not guessing, you're guided. You're not overwhelmed, you're equipped. While others are reacting to life, you're responding with divine strategy. While others panic, you pivot. While others rush, you remain calm, because you already heard what God said before the day began. Let me ask you something. Are you starting your day with wisdom or with worry? Are you grabbing your phone or grabbing your Bible? Are you running to work or running to the throne? Because how you begin determines how you build. If you don't start in wisdom, you might move fast but in the wrong direction. The people who make impact don't just have information. They walk in insight. They say the right things at the right time. They recognize divine moments. They discern who belongs in their life and who doesn't. That's not luck, that's wisdom. And wisdom comes to those who seek it early. So tomorrow, before the traffic builds, before the world demands your time, rise a little earlier, sit a little longer, listen a little deeper. Because one word of wisdom can solve a problem before it shows up. It can protect you from mistakes. It can position you for favor. But once you receive wisdom, the next test will always come. Will you obey that wisdom, even when it challenges your comfort? Don't step out until you've checked in. It sounds simple, but this principle could save you from years of wasted time, wrong connections, broken plans, and unnecessary pain. Before you open that door, before you walk into that meeting, before you make that phone call, pause. Check in with the one who knows the outcome before the conversation even begins. Because too many people are stepping out without checking in, moving without permission, acting without instruction, and then wondering why things keep falling apart. You were never meant to lead yourself. You were designed to follow, not blindly, but with clarity. And that clarity comes when you slow down long enough to say, Lord, is this from you? Should I step forward or should I wait? Sometimes we confuse movement with progress. Just because something is happening fast doesn't mean it's heaven approved. Just because it feels good doesn't mean it's God. That's why before you take a step, you must first take a seat in the secret place. That's where confirmation is found. That's where red flags are revealed. That's where peace becomes your permission. Let me ask you, how many times have you stepped into something you later had to pray your way out of? How many doors did you walk through without checking who opened them? Not every opportunity is from God. Not every connection is divine. Some things look like blessings, but they're actually distractions in disguise. Checking in with heaven doesn't delay your life. It protects it. It doesn't slow down your purpose. It secures it. And those who learn to pause before they proceed, they avoid battles that weren't theirs to fight. They skip storms that weren't meant for their journey. They walk into rooms already prepared because they waited on the voice that goes ahead of them. When you check in first, you don't have to apologize later. You don't have to rebuild what shouldn't have been broken. You don't have to fix what was never assigned. And you begin to see God's timing is not just accurate, it's protective. His no is not rejection, it's redirection. So every morning before your feet hit the floor, whisper this one question. Father, what are you saying today? Before you reply to that message, check in. Before you accept that offer, check in. Before you chase that idea, check in. Because when you step out without checking in, you risk stepping into something that takes you further from destiny, not closer to it. And sometimes the greatest act of faith is not moving fast, but waiting for clearance. But even after you check in and hear his direction, the journey doesn't end there. Will you keep following, even when the path takes you away from what's familiar? Direction before decisions, that's the morning mandate. Every day, you're faced with choices. What to do, where to go, who to trust, what to invest in, what to walk away from. And the tragedy is too many people are making life-altering decisions without first receiving divine direction. They're choosing based on emotion, pressure, trends, or even desperation instead of revelation. But hear this, one wrong decision can delay you for years. One decision made without God's voice can cost peace, time, resources, relationships, and purpose. That's why you must not just desire God's will, you must wait for his direction before you decide anything major. And that waiting doesn't begin in the boardroom. It begins in the bedroom, in the prayer room, in the early moments before the world starts speaking. Direction before decisions. That's the order of the kingdom, because decisions shape your destiny. And if you're not careful, the pressure to just do something will cause you to act too fast and outside of God's timing. Let me ask you, are you deciding based on fear? Are you choosing based on what looks good now without asking what will still be good later? When God gives direction, it might not always look glamorous, but it will always lead to peace. It may not make sense to those around you, but it will make alignment in your spirit. And when you follow his direction, you begin to walk in supernatural rhythm. The right doors open. The wrong people exit. The pieces fall into place. And it's not because you figured it out. It's because you followed. Don't move because you're frustrated. Don't decide because you're tired. Don't jump just because the opportunity looks golden. Ask, then wait. Listen, then follow. Because the blessing isn't just in making the right choice. It's in obeying the right instruction. Every morning, ask God to lead your decisions. Not just the big ones, but the small ones too. What to say, when to be quiet, when to walk away, when to pursue. Because success in life isn't the result of doing everything right. It's the result of doing the right things at the right time with the right direction. And let's be honest, the world will push you to choose now, move now, act now. But heaven says, be still and know. Heaven says, in all your ways acknowledge me, and I will direct your path. So pause. Don't make that decision today unless direction has spoken. Don't chase the opportunity unless peace has confirmed it. Don't say yes if the Spirit hasn't said go. But once direction is given, once decisions are aligned, you're still not finished. Will you be bold enough to recognize his voice in the middle of all the others trying to speak? He speaks early. Are you listening? Before the birds begin to sing, before the sun climbs over the horizon, before your alarm even rings, his voice is already speaking. The question is not whether God speaks, The question is whether you're tuned in. He speaks in the stillness. He speaks in the quiet. He speaks in the calm moments before the storm of the day begins. And yet many never hear him, not because he's silent, but because we're loud, loud in our thoughts, loud in our schedules, loud in our worries. We've become so conditioned to the world's volume that we've forgotten how to recognize the whisper of God. You see, he doesn't compete with noise. He doesn't shout over chaos. He waits patiently for the one who will rise early, not out of obligation, but out of hunger. Hunger for instruction, hunger for clarity, hunger for his presence. Because it's in those early moments that divine secrets are revealed. It's in those early hours that direction becomes clear, purpose gets realigned, and peace wraps around your soul like a blanket. He speaks early because he wants to prepare you, not just react with you. He speaks early to prevent what the enemy is planning. He speaks early because he knows what your day will require. Strength, wisdom, discernment, and he's ready to supply it before you even know you'll need it. Let me ask you, are you hearing him? Or have you allowed other voices to drown him out? The voice of culture, the voice of fear, the voice of ambition, the voice of opinion. You cannot follow a voice you don't recognize. And you won't recognize the voice of God unless you've spent time in it. Just like a child knows their father's voice in a crowd, you must become so familiar with his tone, his pace, his presence, that no other voice can lead you off course. If you want to walk in power, learn to listen in silence. If you want daily victory, seek daily communion. If you want to hear his voice clearly in crisis, train your spirit to hear him consistently in calm. He's not far. He's not hiding. He's speaking. But are you listening? Because how you begin your day will determine how you walk through it. And how you walk through it will determine what you carry into your destiny. So rise early, get still, turn down the world, tune into heaven, and let the voice of the King become your compass. Your steps are ordered. Your day has purpose. Your life has design. Your future is guarded. Your spirit is guided. But it all begins with one thing. Did you hear him this morning?